What are some of the critical issues that has propped up over the years in related to sustaining housing development in Nigeria?
Okay, I know you have mentioned one of them, which is the situation of population in Nigeria. We understand that say we are over about 200 million as a country, and it is a major challenge that has faced us as a country, Nigeria. And as much as the governments are making efforts, it looks like this effort is not tallying with the population growth, because you see the population in form of people giving birth, population is growing, people migrating into Nigeria. People migrating into Nigeria too. There are a lot of people in other sub-African countries like Nigeria and all that. They feel like a greener pasture, you understand, is when we come into Nigeria. And so this population is a major, the population issue is a major challenge that has faced the country and even the government and all the effort they are making towards sustainable housing. We also have, maybe personally, I'll call it the behaviors of Nigerians, you understand. Now, we understand that when it comes to sustainable housing, there are what we call plans, there are what we call layouts, there are what we call, there are things that Nigerians are supposed to like follow, lay down rule. For example, let me give you an example. So if we use Lagos as an example now, we have what we call the master plan for Lagos as a state. Now, over time, you see that we have gone against the master plan when it comes to sustainable housing, when it comes to planning of the state and all this. So I believe that we have the population as a challenge. We also have the behaviors of Nigeria as a challenge. We also have the availability of this material, because when we talk about sustainable housing, we're talking about housing facilities that that has less adverse effects to maybe the climate, to the environment and all that. That's what we're talking about. And there are materials, especially when it comes to development of houses, that needs to be available, you understand. But these materials are really scarce, especially when it comes to Nigeria. Let me give you an example. So everybody is used to the construction of houses with blocks. That's what is very popular in Nigeria. But if you go outside Nigeria, go to the UK, go to other parts of the world, you see them going into using sustainable products in construction of houses. Like you see them using bamboo, you see them utilizing cellulose, you see them using bricks, even bricks. I know bricks is kind of available in Nigeria to an extent, but not really cost effective as a normal block everybody. So I believe that the availability of materials for the construction of houses is one of the challenge too that has faced us as a country in achieving sustainable housing, even from the government.
Okay, let's look at the trend. From what you just talked about, you mentioned the use of bamboo sticks. Before this time, people were using that in building houses in Nigeria, but once modernization set in, people began to go for blocks. So it seemed like it's the old pattern coming back now. And Nigerians have already developed a taste for such houses built with blocks. How can that be changed? Because it seems to be a preference. If you're to build a house with bamboo, are there creative ways to make this look like what you have with modern houses?
Okay, yes. I know that you have, I know that in some advanced, let's call it offices or locations, you see that the products you see from some of these bamboos and all that, they are very beautiful. And the way you see it's been packaged now, it's not the way we have always known it. When in those days, when you see people live in bamboo house, you feel that they are maybe people in the rural areas and all that. But these days, you even find in urban communities, you find construction of houses with some of these materials we're talking about. And then you see them come out very, very beautiful. You understand? So I feel that we have now gone into that stage that this bamboo, this wood, has been, will I say processed? You know, will I say processed? They've been processed in a kind of way that when you use them in the construction of a house, in short, even from the outside, if somebody does not even tell you that this house was constructed with a bamboo or with timber, you may not even know. I also feel that there should be a sensitization people on the benefit of using some of these other materials in the construction of housing. When we talk about sustainable housing development, people should be aware of the benefits. Let me give you an example. When you construct houses with some of this bamboo, some of this timber we talk about, you cut down on a lot of hazards. And we understand that bamboo or trees help absorb carbon. So anybody who is staying in the house would have more purified air than an individual who is staying in a house that is built with bricks and built with blocks. Yes, so there should be a sensitization to the common man, to the community. There should be campaign, especially to preach that we understand that, yes, concrete is what everybody is used to, but there is a way we can return to the old pattern. There's a way we can return to the way things have been before, that will even help us, number one, in improving our health as individuals who stay in those houses, and number two, in cutting on living costs, cutting on the cost to use. I was studying something about India. They have this campaign on sustainable housing, you understand, in a part of India, and they said that compared to other parts who still use brick and all that, they have cut on 30% of the normal life expense they're supposed to use to live when it comes to electricity, when it comes to going to the hospital and all that. They have been, so if we sensitize Nigerians, because we're in Nigeria, so if we sensitize Nigeria on the benefit of sustainable housing, the benefits it can add to the community, the benefits it can add to the health of people, and then these things, like I said in the first time, can be made available. When I mean made available, also like subsidized. For example, if we have the government carrying it personally to say, okay, all real estate developers, maybe there is a mandate that, okay, out of all the estates you construct, you must have a place that is dedicated that, okay, you must use this material for the development of this house and all that. And then if we are importing this material, it will be subsidized and made available to you and all that. I think that it will also go a long way to encourage developers and also Nigerians to go the way of the sustainable housing part. Yeah.
Talking about subsidy, does that imply that the materials are expensive? And let's also look at the durability. People are building to last them, to last their entire lifetime, so they can even pass on the houses as inheritance to their children. How durable are these materials?
Okay, yes, you first of all talked about price. You talked about price. Now, the truth is that when you talk about sustainable housing, majority of the materials are not produced in Nigeria. Unlike blocks, blocks, everybody can just make block with cement, we have that. But when you talk about sustainable housing, I'm talking about construction of houses that has to do with wood, because it's not just this normal bamboo we see on the street or normal bamboo they use when they want to cast the house. No, you understand, these bamboos have to go through process. They also have to be treated, because you're talking about durability. Now, we understand the fact that people are used to termites. When termites comes on, when you talk about wood, before you know termites, but they are treating, there are processes that these woods will go through that we help them to last a long time, help them to last a long while. And also you talked about people wants to build for their lifetime. They want to make sure that whatever I'm building now will last me to my children and all that. That is also possible, because when you talk about sustainable housing so let me give you an example. So somebody built a house in Lekki now, and then maybe he has a job in VI, and then you lose your job and maybe you want to relocate to Abuja. You understand? When you talk about sustainable housing, it is, you can move your house. Let me use that word, mobile house. You understand?
How do you move?
Okay. So in the construction of this house, unlike the bricks and all that, where you have to use cement and it looks like whatever you are building is a permanent structure. On this other one, they are detachable. We have one of that house in Aja. In short, I watched the documentary on YouTube on how they constructed the house in about 10 days. 10 days was used in the construction of the framework. And it is because it has to do with, so they have a way that it is being prepared. And then when you just come to the location of the house, you just have to join, screw here to this, screw here to this, screw here to this. And before you know, a house is standing. And if there's a situation where you have to maybe move that, all you just have to do is to unscrew what you have screwed. Like I said, these materials are not made in Nigeria, and that is the reason for the cost. And then when you talk about durability, they are being also processed and they can last a long time. Yeah.
What role will this play in ensuring you have sustainable housing scheme in Nigeria when it comes to urban planning and availability of data?
We understand that there's a popular saying that anybody who does not plan, you understand, will fail, and it's normal. So when you talk about urban planning is giving layout, giving plan to the settlement of people in a particular community, in a particular region. So data will give you an idea of, so in Lagos, so we have 500 people in Lagos. If the government says that, okay, they want to make house available to the occupants or residents in Lagos, let me use a smaller community, let me use Ikeja, you understand? If they say they want to make that, now, urban planning is, okay, let's go to the drawing board. We understand that if people must stay in a place, there must be basic amenities for these people. So urban planning will help you to understand that, okay, we are going to have 500 people in this location. Aside from having 500 people in this location, that means that we're going to need 40 schools. We're going to need 50 boreholes. We're going to need this road, you understand, to help manage the population in that location. So data will help give an idea of, okay, these are the total number of people that will be in this place. These are the total number of facilities that are required to help the good living of people that will be in this place. And then when we talk about urban planning will help give equal distribution of the resources that will help the healthy living of these individuals in this particular location. So the truth is that even generally, there's no place in the world, and that's the reason why we have shanties and we have slums. There's no place in the world that people are resident in that there will be no need for urban planning. Urban planning, in short, is what should go ahead of the residential availability of people in a particular place. And when you find a place where there is no plan, there is no layout, people just come and erect structures the way they like and all that. That's the reason why you have slums and then you have shanties in Nigeria. So urban planning is important, but aside from urban planning, we also know that data, information, total population of people are also important. That's the reason why, permit me to say, Lagos is the way it is. The amenities of Lagos that was being planned in the construction and master plan of Lagos, we have gone far above that data or that statistics, even generally in Nigeria. And that's the reason for traffic, that's the reason for traffic congestion, that's the reason for too much pressure on the little facilities that are available. You see them talking about they want to do a maintenance on the Third Mainland Bridge. Why? It is because the pressure on the bridge, 247, pressure is on that bridge and all that. And let me just also say this, that also government should also take a knowledge from that. I'm not very sure that our population will continue to go back. It will continue to go up. Let me give you an example. The Lagos State government are currently constructing an 8-lane from Aja to Ekpe. And in Ekpe is where you have the Dangote refinery. Ekpe is where you have the proposed international airport. You have the Lagos Film City in Ekpe, and then a lot of these facilities in that location. I can tell you for sure that the road that is being constructed in the next 6 years will not service the population of people that will be in that area. That is the truth. That road will become overpressured because we're talking about the location where you have a refinery, you have an airport, you have the settlement of people and all that. You know that there will be in and out movement of people towards that location. Yes, the government have tried to construct an 8-lane, but you are very sure that in the next 10 years, in the next 5 years, that facility may not be able to satisfy the population of people that will go towards that environment. But in general, urban planning is important, and then data is important in the planning of the settlement of people in a particular location. Thank you.
Okay, so still talking about sustainable housing, how does it help with water conservation and waste management?
Okay, well, I know that it's just that in Nigeria, all of us were used to the whole pits, blocks and all that. But in advanced country, I can tell you that waste management, and let me talk about waste, common waste, sewage, that you find in almost every home, have been converted to reusable materials. They're being converted to reusable materials. I know that one or two estates in Nigeria currently are trying to practice it, that I've seen personally, whereby the waste that is being produced in the estate is also being used to generate electricity, and also being purified to provide water for that same estate. Yes. So when we talk about, and this is all under sustainable housing, sustainable house. So how do we, number one, utilize anything that will come from housing, that will come from a place of residence of people, anything that will cause an adverse effect to the community? How do we now convert that thing to become of of a benefit to the individuals who stay in that place? So you have a lot that has to do with the sewage system I've talked about, which has to do with the preservation or the purification of whatever comes out of people so that they can use it again. We also have, when we talk about sustainable housing, sorry, I'm just dwelling on the timber. When we talk about sustainable housing, it goes beyond that. I mentioned cellulose, I mentioned bricks. These are other forms of housing, these are other forms of materials that can be used in the provision of sustainable housing. When you talk about people staying in a house and all that, you understand? But when we talk about this timber that I'm talking about, I said something about the air that people consume who stay in housing. Now we understand that trees absorbs carbon dioxide. So a house that is constructed with timber, for example, is going to have less carbon dioxide than a house that is being constructed with brick. When you talk about bricks, that's being constructed with block. When you talk about bricks, if a fire incident happen in a house that is being constructed with bricks, right, they are assured of safety than a house that is being constructed with concrete. You understand? So these are some of the benefits that sustainable housing will contribute to individuals, to the community, and entirely to the climate.
When you look at some of the housing in slum areas and shanties, you sometimes wonder how those there are able to cope with the living condition. But what would be needed to improve such infrastructure, considering the fact that those there are low-income earners and may not be able to afford very quality infrastructure? But what can be done to improve the condition of such places?
Okay, yes. Before I go into talking about what can be done to improve the condition living of individuals in these places, I would like to start from a point of, now, we must understand that slums and shanties are, first of all, informal settlements. I don't want to call it illegal, I want to call it informal. But the truth is that majority of the slums and shanties that we have in Nigeria are illegal. When I mean illegal, I mean that they have been scattered many times, and then you still find people go back there after a period of time that government does not do something to them. Now we understand that basic amenities, when I talk about basic amenities, I'm talking about road, I'm talking about schools, I'm talking about proper water, I'm talking about power supply. Majority of basic amenities are provided by the government. Now the government many times cannot provide basic amenities in an informal or illegal settlement. I want you to just follow the conversation. Now, let me use Makoko as an example. Now, if you trace the history of Makoko, you know that it came from people who came from Benin Republic, or they call them Egun, that wanted to settle in Nigeria, and then they wanted to thrive in Nigeria, and they just found a place, and they just went to stay in that place. There was no legal permission and all that. They just want to settle in the place, and because they are staying in the place and they are human beings, and government will not just come and then begin to say, you understand, and even sometimes when they pursue them, they still come back there. But number one is that people must really understand that if you must really enjoy basic amenities, you must do things correctly, you must do things legally, you must do things properly. You know, recently the commissioner of Lagos State demolished some houses, I don't know if you heard about it, along the Ikota Canal. Although those houses may be said to have been constructed properly, but the location where they have constructed those houses, you can call it an illegal settlement. In short, personally, I would call it a slum or a shanty, because that is what slums and shanties are all about. But now we said that we know that in Nigeria, because of the population, we cannot totally take slums and shanties away. That's what I'm talking about, illegal settlement, away from our country or our community and all that. So what the government can actually do is to see how they can provide basic amenities, at least just to help the living of people in that location. Basic amenities like a proper sewage disposal system. So we know that a slum and a shanty, people just wake up and then drop things anyhow and all that. What the government should do, put strategies on ground to see how, okay, at least if we have trucks that we go to this location to help take the waste of people every morning, even if you ask them to pay a token and all that. We know that these are, you may call them low income earners, people who are the lower cadre of the society and all that. But I think that that's where the government should come to their aid. Another thing is that we see how we can partner with international bodies. Look at the United Nations. They have a department. They have projects that help people who stay in slums and stay in shanties. In short, the information I have is that from the last support that was given to Nigeria, we're giving about $200 million to upgrade individuals who are in slums and who are in shanty. So if there are proper utilization of this fund, you understand, you can help convert Lekki, the place they call Oneru today, at a time many years back was like a slum and like a shanty. And then when people came into that environment, because of the presence of people, they started developing the place, and then government saw the need to put attention in the place and construct road, see how they can take power supply to that place and all that. You understand? So in general, they should look for a way of taking natural basic amenities to individuals who are in this place, just to help the upgrade of people in this location.
I would like you to educate us on, the various strategies or sources of financing when it comes to upgrading of slums, because you require funds to do this for individuals, organizations, or government agencies that want to do this. Talk to us some of the financing options or strategies.
Okay, yeah. Now, before I talk about that general financial options, I would like to say that the truth is that many times, if we all wait on the government, we wait on public funds to come and help give us basic amenities, we may wait many years before those amenities come. So first of all is communal effort. So we are 50 staying on a particular street. We know that when rain falls, erosion is everywhere, or there's flooding in that location. There's nothing that stops everybody from coming together and saying, see, let's come together and see how we can construct a drainage. If it means that each house should provide 20,000, let's bring that money together and see how we can provide drainage, because it is all for the benefit of each and every one of us. Some of this money that are coming from US, coming from the government and all that will not come. So aside from that, we also have the federal government. The federal government have budget, have allocations through the Ministry of Housing, that funds are being made available. Allocations are being made available. It's just that many times it's not going to be raw cash. So we can say, okay, we are giving I think in 2014, about 3 billion was released for the construction of low houses in Abuja. So they won't give you that fund, but that fund will be used to construct houses that low-income earners can take and say, okay, maybe every month you pay 20,000 back, and when you pay that for 10 years or pay that for 5 years, before you know, you are a home owner. So we have the government making those provisions in allocation. We also have international bodies. So we have support from international bodies, just like the United Nations that I talked about. United Nations, I think they call it United Nations Housing Development Agency, is an agency in the United Nations that make fund available to African countries. They make this fund available that, okay, Nigeria, this is your budget, and then it goes to the government, and then it has a channel that it goes to some of these people who are in the slums and in the shanty, just to help in their upgrade. And maybe later we'll talk about that, because of the whole corruption and all that goes through some of those processes, that sometimes even when this money comes from outside, I think that it has actually discouraged even a lot of international investors when it comes to the upgrade of slums and shanties. Because when you keep pumping money to a place and then you expect to see change and then you don't see change, the only thing we see is on the newspaper that also amount of money was released. We see it because those other people will publish it, and then we don't see the effect of some of this money that is being released into the community. May discourage people, but the government comes, we have international bodies who are giving us support in the upgrade of slums and shanties. But what is most important is that individuals who stay in a particular location, who are facing challenges in that location, should be able to understand that if I must make this place better, the first financing must come from myself. So how do we collaborate together? How do we put effort together? How do we manage our resources together to provide basic amenities? If it means there's no light in a place, let's come together and buy a transformer in that place. Because if you continue to wait for funds from whatsoever, you'll be waiting a long time and those money may not come. But I think I've mentioned a few and all that. Thank you.